Go, you're on.
Okay,
Go.
all right, thank you. Okay, welcome everyone to the Village of Buchanan, May 18th, 2021 meeting. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with Executive Order 202.1. You will be able to see this meeting live on Facebook. If you have any questions, please call 737-1034. And if you could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, so just to bring everybody up to speed, if somebody's tuned in today and they weren't here last week, this is a special meeting. We're talking about the village capital requirements. Our administrator, Marcus Serrano, met with the department heads to discuss their needs. We do have a list that we're going to discuss this evening and decide what we feel is needed for the village. And on with us this evening is our village engineer, George Palmer. And I also want to say, before we get started, I am just not a big fan of bonding. I only feel it's when it's necessary we bond. And I also feel, especially for infrastructure, if infrastructure is needed. And it's, like we did last year, we bonded for $1 million for an infrastructure project. So just want to start with that. What I think, just to keep this organized and flowing smoothly, let's start, from the top and go to each subject. So the first subject we had was paving sidewalks. So George, the general paving program, we all know it's going to be $500,000 this year. And then each year we're going to still, as the boards are doing the budgets, they can put in what they feel is necessary. But we've been putting in about $250,000 a year. We discussed last week the village hall parking lot. Marcus, did you get a chance to check on what it would cost for coating?
I got a call in with a company that did some of the patch sealing. So they will give me a price. We have not received the coating yet price. That will be crash sealing and coating. So as soon as I get that, I'll share that with the board.
Okay. And then, thank you. Maybe next at the workshop.
Yeah.
And then Lens Cove, we discussed that I think all the board felt that we should just leave that for a potential developer to fix that parking lot over there, and hopefully there is expedited release of the Indian Point property, and it can be negotiated that the parking lot gets done too.
Yeah, can I say something about that?
Sure.
I think that if grant money became available, we could do that parking lot. Mm-hmm. I think when you get a developer in, there's probably going to be so many different things you're going to want to negotiate that to pick one thing, if there's something became important for us to do, there'd be plenty of other things to negotiate and try to get along with a development. And anything that happens over there is years away. So that parking lot, it's a bit of a roller coaster. I don't think we're going to get any sinkholes that are going to eat any cars just yet. But, it's not ideal, but it's damn expensive. So I would agree with postponing it from a financial point of view, and whether or not it becomes something we can get with a developer. I think that the Village Hall parking lot should be taken off the table because it's, other than a little cosmetic stuff, it's in perfectly fine shape. But we should just be having it sealed at least every 2 years, if not every year. So that is not on the schedule for this first year. It's on the schedule for the third year, 2023, 2024. We could see what kind of shape it's in down the road, but definitely nothing at this point. I think it could be kept going for quite a while just by sealing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Other than that, of course, the regular paving has to stay in there. We have to do regular paving so we don't get hit with everything at once.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think we'll get more life out of it if we do that coating. You are correct there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so moving down to the 9A sidewalk, Marcus, you have some updated information on that from the state, no, not the state, but from the bids were open today. Would you like to tell everyone about that?
Yeah, we received the bids. Cindy, if you're still on, maybe you want to just tell the board the numbers.
Oh, okay. Hold on one second. Yep.
No problem.
More away.
So today the bids were open for the 9A sidewalk.
Correct.
You want all three, or you just want the low
The
price?
lowest bid, just the board to know.
Okay, 294,460.
So 300,000. The grant was 150. On engineering to do the project will be probably another 30,000, and George can address that. So I got a call in with Sandy Galo's office to see if there's any additional funds available. To see what is available. I received a call back today. Hopefully before our next workshop, I'll be able to tell the board where that stands, and then the board can make a determination to either find additional funds to do it or kill the project, and then we can reject the bids at the June meeting. Those are the options. So we did receive the bids. If we're not going to move forward, we got to reject all the bids. Talked to George about that this afternoon. George had an idea that I thought he might pass to the board to see what the priorities of the board might be. So go ahead, George.
So one question before that, George, just could you, for the sake of everybody listening, say again where the sidewalk, from where it's going to and from?
Sure.
Go ahead.
It'd be from the end of the gas station along 9A to the Relindo property. That section that's on the west side of 9A. And there's a piece that's been missing for at least 20 or 25, 30 years. It's been missing for a long time, but we've been putting in grants for it. We put in multimodal grants. We've been putting in CBDG grants. We've been trying to get grants for this for a very long time, since long as I can remember. It's the piece that connects the downtown to Lens Cove, and it's the last piece that connects there. So that's why it's always been on the plate to get it done.
Thank you.
George, that's you had an idea of how to maybe reallocate some funds that the board can consider.
So, yeah, we were talking, you have $500,000 in road work. Depending on what comes back from Sandy Geloff's office, maybe not doing one of the roads or a portion of the roads, you could reallocate some funding towards finishing the sidewalk.
I don't want to use village taxpayer dollars for the state road. I think we need to do our roads, and I don't know how the rest of the board feels. There's no way I would use that for the 9A road. That's on their road. Let them come up with the money.
Well, what road were you considering, George?
I haven't thought about which one. It's either Lindsay or Henry. It's one or the other, because those two were in the $200,000 range. Either one. They're both in kind of equally same condition. So either one would be applicable. And then the mayor said, you're putting in $250 for next year. So it wouldn't get done this year. It'd get done a year later.
Marcus, how would that affect our CHIPS reimbursement?
Since if we spend anywhere, we always spend about $250,000. So as long as you spend $250,000 or more, then the CHIPS reimbursement tends to be the same.
So how much is the CHIPS reimbursement for if you were only to do, say, Lindsay Avenue?
George, how much would the reduction for Lindsay Avenue would be?
Lindsay's about $230.
No, for a CHIPS reimbursement.
Oh, I don't know what the percentage
I think
is.
we only get about 30,000. We don't get a lot of money from CHIPS.
Cindy has a little analysis of that.
But if we're getting 30,000 for the $500,000 we're spending, and we're still going to get 30,000 if we only spend 250,000, we're not really losing too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is the max? Because we're only allocated a certain amount of chips per year. It doesn't go up with our project. It's a maximum amount. So if we can still get the maximum amount for spending $200,000 and not spending, and we can get back another $30,000 the following year to spend the other $200,000. So, you know, we're actually reducing our cost by $30,000.
See your point. Absolutely. You're right.
Yep.
Cindy, did you find, I forget, it was in our budget. I forget what it was, the CHIPS amount.
Because the CHIPS does roll over. So if we didn't incur the maximum amount last year, we would have a surplus. Did we get the maximum reimbursement last year?
Cindy, you're muted. Cindy, you're talking about, you're muted.
Talking and we can't hear.
That's right.
Sorry. So, all right. So this year with CHIPS, we're scheduled to get $65,000.
Okay.
That's just CHIPS. And you got Pave New York of $17,500 and the winter recovery of $14,000. So,
Cindy, would there be a reduction in the CHIPS money that we get if we were to reduce the amount that we spend on?
you know, honestly, Sean, I didn't even know what you were talking about with that. I thought out of the big fund, it was just all allocated for each community on a certain percentage, not how much we spent.
I thought it had to do with a maximum allocation that we can receive.
Yeah.
Because we didn't receive anything extra when we did Blakely Avenue. We received the maximum amount.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, unless things have changed in the last 10 years.
Right. I don't know. I'll have to call and find out because I didn't know that.
Yeah, we can find that out for you,
Yeah,
Sean.
if you could just clarify that for me, because that's the way I remembered it. And if we can get the maximum amount by only doing one road, and we can get another maximum amount next year by doing the next road and bring in the extra $150,000 in the grant money, it might be a little advantageous. I know it's a big expenditure, but you know, maybe if we can get all the numbers together, we can make a better decision.
So Marcus, this $100,000, that's included in our $500,000?
The 500,000 is based on the funds we had available now, based on the budget we have right now.
Okay, but we would still have access to a potential $100,000 more?
Yeah, the CHIPS money that you mentioned, Cindy, have we received that yet, or is that what we're planning to receive?
No, this is if we do road work, we can receive this.
Okay.
So there's reimbursement
So
after we do the
last
work.
year, right, we just got like $46,000 for the road work we did prior to this.
Okay, so we won't be getting.
We won't be getting this, but if you do road work early, we could probably get this in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Because we normally don't do road work till October, November, and then we get it in February or March.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can get the road work done sooner this year.
Well, I would like to see that sidewalk happen if there was a way to put together the funding. Unfortunately, George, can you explain what this additional work we have to do is in terms of drainage or whatever it was? The state came and said we have to redo some drainage. I mean, what we had $150,000 grant for the sidewalk, and now they doubled our cost by requiring us to do certain work. Can you explain what that is?
That's correct. So we originally were going to do just sidewalks and curbs, and now we have to put in multiple catch basins. We have to outlet to an existing stone culvert, and that's basically it. That was the main increase.
There's no catch basins along that stretch now?
No, it all sheet flows off, and there's a big embankment there. It goes right down an embankment. And as soon as you put the curb there, the state says, well, you put the curb there. We said, well, it's going to go down the road. It's going to go around the corner to Tate. And they said, no, you got to put it right back where it was going before. It's going down into this culvert. It's going into the stream. So now you got to keep it going there. They don't want to redirect any water. So
I don't know. With all those extra requirements, they should be able to pick up that extra cost.
Yeah. Well, I would like to see if we can get any additional funds, whether it's through Sandy Gilliff, through the state, by any savings from the paving that we don't need to spend this year, the CHIPS money, any way we could put it together, basically as Sean said, get all the numbers together and make a better decision. But I would be leaning towards finding a way to get that sidewalk in. I think that would be a great link to tie together Blakely and the Village Circle. I see more and more people walking over there, and at least with the repaving and the line there, it's a little safer than it was before. But of course without all the excessive parking, that's the biggest difference. I think it would be a nice link to have, basically all the way to Lens Cove if you wanted to walk there.
Yeah.
Well, it'll help alleviate some of the illegal parking that occurs in that area right now, even though the signs are up. But
Yeah.
why don't we just wait until we get the numbers together to make a decision whether we're going to cut out a road or whether we can, there's just a couple of numbers that I would like to see before I made a decision on that.
Before we talk about this sidewalk, this doesn't go in front of Orlando. This is the gap of place in between the store and just before that house before Orlando. So it's just a very small section that we're looking to pave, and it's gotten pricey.
Yeah, well, the curbs and sidewalks are the expenditures are by linear foot. I know the drainage is what has increased our original estimate.
That's what's killing us there.
Way we can maneuver this.
Yeah.
No.
And how wide is this new sidewalk slated to be, George?
6 feet.
Now, the existing section that's there is not 6 feet. Does it widen the existing sections?
We won't widen. We'll transition to a wider sidewalk.
Okay, because 6 feet is good. Somebody, I mean, I suppose you could have somebody with a bicycle and somebody walking, and it would still work. Yeah,
it's strollers and people passing. The average person, they say, is 3 feet wide. So, or it requires a 3 foot space of 2-3 foot space without somebody, going towards.
Yeah, unfortunately, for that little bit in front of Orlando, it narrows down.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. Let's pull the numbers together and look at it again.
So, Marcus, for the next meeting, could you let us know if a reduction in our currently budgeted roads, if we have a reduction in that coverage, will that reduce the amount of CHIPS money that we receive? Also, if we do that, will we be able to carry over any funds to next year's CHIPS, or does it not carry over anymore? And what is our maximum allotment for CHIPS per year that we could receive? Because I think there used to be a maximum. I didn't think you get unlimited based on your percentage of roads.
Right.
So if you can let me have those numbers, I'd appreciate it.
Yep. I'll work with Cindy on that and get it to the board. Absolutely.
So that's still in discussion, the sidewalk then. Okay, George, we're going on to the wastewater treatment plant. I had a discussion with Marcus. Marcus is, there's a couple of options here, but Marcus is looking at hiring a grant writer. I don't know what the board's feelings are on that. We spoke about this the other day. The grant applications would have to be in by July 31st. This is substantial, and I know, Sean, you still wanted an answer on making a pumping station, which I just don't think is in the village's best interest, but we'll also run those numbers and see if the county is willing to accept the waste. And we'll also see if the city of Peekskill is willing to allow us to hook up to their pipes over by Charles Point area, I believe it is.
It was on a South Street pump station. There was 3 separate routes for force main.
I think they just rehabilitated that one too. I think that was in failure, and I think they just rehabbed that one. So
it was in failure, and that was going to be part of the rehabilitation plan, where the city was going to pay for it if the county took it over, because the county does not own that pump station. At least they didn't, so things might have changed.
Yeah.
But there was one other thing. I know that the town of Cortland and the Montrose Improvement District were discussing tying in with us also. And I think they still have the desire to do that. I know we had also postulated increasing the capacity by adding the other tank. which if we were to add the other tank and to do the rehab on tanks 1 and 2, we would actually save about $1 million. I believe it was around $4 million. If we do it separately, it's over $5 million. So if it's okay with you, Mayor, I would like you to authorize the village engineer and the village administrator to contact Tom Wood to put together a basic analysis so that they can come up with a gallonage, whatever the town wants to improve the 9A corridor the same way we want to improve it. But they have issues with the wastewater and the septic too. And they are at the point right now of either determining to send it someplace, either to an existing plant like Round Top or Amberlands and expand there, or building their own plant. Now, if they decide to build their own plant, it's probably going to cost more than if they were to help us out and build a third tank. So
Sean, I'm sorry, but I know what you're saying, but we've had many discussions with the town on this, and we came to a point where we had to make a decision if we were going to continue. And George, if you could catch Sean up to where we are and what some of the issues were with the type of waste that was coming in, and Marcus also, there were like a lot of different issues that had to be resolved, and we just weren't getting to that resolution. And the board's thoughts were, if it wasn't in the benefit of the village of Buchanan, then we weren't just going to do it just for the heck of it. So if it was and didn't end up being a benefit, then we weren't going to do it.
Oh no, I understand that. If it's not a benefit to the resident, absolutely. But I don't believe there's any gallonage calculations. There's nothing, And
George, I believe there was. I believe the town did some calculations, and I think George was involved also. George, yeah. I believe it was like roughly 10,000 gallons a day.
That's correct. They had 24, 25 properties. They identified the district. They did a whole bunch of legwork. They did some studies. They came up with some estimated flows. And that was roughly the number. But in our previous meeting, we were talking not only about that, we were talking about the overlay district and its contribution to the remaining capacity that we have, and Entergy, when it gets developed, its remaining capacity that it's going to use up. So between Entergy, the overlay district, the commitment to give up capacity that we have was not there. Because if Entergy uses up right now, Entergy, in previous years, if Entergy could on some days could actually double the flow of the plant. And if something like that comes back into Entergy, into the site where it gets developed, we would want that capacity for in
district.
In district development rather than out of district development. So it sounds like it's a small amount, but I think we came to the conclusion at the last, or a previous meeting, not the last meeting, but a previous meeting, that let's find out what Entergy is doing before we move forward. And as Teresa said, 10,000 gallons of domestic sewage is not the same as 10,000 gallons of commercial sewage. It's not the same ratio. There's more chemical oxygen demand. There's more stress on the system because of greases and other chemicals that could be dumped into the system. So it's not a pure 1-to-1 ratio when you come to adding domestic or adding commercial facilities.
So let me add some other thing for Sean and Anthony's point. There's been a couple of meetings with the town. Like George said, they did do a special district. They did a map, they do the calculation, and then we had a discussion with them. And just to let you know, the problem was also enforcement and legal issues that we couldn't get over since they're outside the village. If something is dumped illegally, the violation will be against the village, and the village has really no enforcing power to go outside the village to enforce any authority outside the village. So that was a legal issue that we had to work out. The other issue is that there's a fee charged and those people don't pay a fee right now within the village, you can add it to their tax bill. And we don't have that authority either. So there was some discussion that if the village and the town wanted to do something, we'll probably need special state legislation to authorize our building inspector or wastewater treatment plant or engineer to issue violations, as well as any payments not made to the village that the town will collect and make the village whole. So that authority is not out there right now. But if the village and the town wants to consider that, we need to consider that as well. So we have the engineering side, as well as the legal and collection side and enforcement side. So those are some of the hurdles we had with the town.
I think the legal side. I'm sorry, Rich. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question. Marcus, could you explain about the grant thing?
Oh, okay. So let's go back. The grant. I sent the board an email a couple of days ago. We were searching. I was searching for a grant writer. Going back to the sewer treatment plant, there's a grant round that was just released. A whole bunch of grants were released. One of the most important ones is called the Wqip Grant. I sent an email. It's Water Quality Improvement Project or something like that. That provides up to 75% of the project cost. So our share will be 25%. It's one of the best grants out there right now. So I would like the board to allow me to sign a contract with this grant writer. I think it was $3,800 for him to write the grant, work with George, get the narrative, get the detail, get the budget together, and provide a grant application to the state within the deadline. Because that grant was not available last year, there's a lot of interest out there right now. And most of the grant writers I reached out to have either been booked with their clients. They're not taking additional clients. They're filled up. And I will hate the opportunity to apply for this grant. I'm not saying we're going to get it guaranteed, but at least we have opportunity to apply for a grant that gives up to 75% reimbursement. They were highly recommended from NICOM. They actually presented at a NICOM conference. I shared the application, the proposal with George. We both feel that the cost is very, very reasonable. Other costs I've seen from other people is in tens of thousands of dollars to even apply for the grant. So I think it's very cost effective. So that's another. So I would like to get maybe an idea of the boards when we go in that direction. I could tell the grant writer to hold, and then we can put it on the agenda for the June 6th meeting. But I need to tell the grant writer if we're going to go ahead or not with this grant writer.
I'd like to. I think it's a very good idea, and I'd like to hear what everybody else on the board says about that.
Absolutely, because it's always been very difficult to obtain a grant writer. They're hard to come by, and if they're willing to take the time, I think it'd be beneficial to us, especially if any infrastructure money comes available from the federal government. If they could dovetail that, is this grant only going to the state or the federal government, Marcus?
The WQIP grant is a state grant, but this grant writer actually will be looking at all grants. There are grants for, like, the other thing is the police, the body cams for the police department. So there are, and that's through the DGIS. So there are a number of grants, which federal and state, that they can provide the village board and me with some options for other grants. So the idea is to open up the door to allow us to create a relationship with a grant writer that we can look at all the grants that come out, but then now they all come out real quick, and you have a very short timeline to apply.
I think it's under the CFA, the consolidate funding. I think they have to be in by July 31st.
That's correct. That's correct.
Do we hear from Nick and Anthony just what they think?
I think we should do it. I have a couple of other questions related to the Montrose Improvement District, but as far as the grant writing, yes, I think we should do it.
I think we should do it as well.
Yeah, I think it's money well spent.
I don't want to lose the grant writer if they're becoming that busy. I think we should take advantage of it now.
Appreciate that. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So now we can go back to the whole thing with the Montrose. Yes.
Yeah, if I could, a couple of things. First of all, you're talking about, because we don't have jurisdiction, having to go to the state and to get approval, or I believe is what you said.
Correct.
Now, we don't have jurisdiction with the school district either, but we have a sewer agreement. Would there not be a way to write it through in a sewer agreement where the town would be responsible for the enforcement and have to report to us regularly?
If the town's willing to, the town's willing to take a responsibility, but at the end of the day, the village is ultimately, and George can answer this question with the DEC, the village is ultimately responsible to the DEC. If the town doesn't enforce and the person who's doing the illegal dumping, something happens and we cannot satisfy the DEC, we're the ones who get the violation. George, you might want to touch on that a little bit.
No, that's exactly right, Marcus. It's the village is responsible. So you need that power or that authority to be able to. So with the school, we have somewhere in that agreement, they discharge right to one of our lines and it's one entity. So if we have an issue with them, we just plug the line and that's it. And we can go, negotiate or do whatever we have to do with the school to get, back to our agreement or whatever. This is a little different. This is a whole line with 25 people. You could try to shut one of them off at a time, but then you're going on to, you'd have to coordinate that with the town and say, okay, we want to shut this line off and plug it, one particular line. It'd be difficult to do with individuals. It's with 25 individuals. So
we've had that issue before with people dumping illegal things in there.
Yes.
And George, we've had some issues even when I was in, and we came up with a strategy to mitigate those issues.
We did,
but and it worked.
Yes.
Without having to go to court. Yes. So anyway, I don't think there's any harm in talking with them. They have expressed the desire to change their plans. They've expressed the desire even to change. They want to change a lot of things. They just want to talk to us. That's all they want to do. No commitments, just discussions. And if George knows all the issues that could come up, and Marcus knows all the issues that could come up, if Marcus could just call Tom Wood at the town of Cortland and set up a discussion, that's all I'm asking. I'm not looking to do anything that would be in the worst interest of the village, and specifically not anything that's not in the best interest of the village could go by the wayside. But we have the potential to increase our capacity, but just to talk to the town. Like I said, they want to do something. They even want to build their own sewer plant. So if we could dovetail our projects onto it, even if it's 20,000 gallons a day, we're only at 60% capacity, which means we have an extra 200,000 gallons. So it's less than 10%, no matter what the bio load is, and all these things could be worked out. Every community has. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep.
We were supposed to have a meeting set up with the supervisor, and then we never had the meeting. So that the supervisor and her engineers and everybody wanted to be on board. We were supposed to set that meeting up, and that didn't happen.
If I remember, if you wanted it to.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, they said that they asked for a meeting and we didn't respond. I think there was some confusion there, and we, they felt like we left them in the lurch. And I think maybe it was a misunderstanding, but at any rate, they definitely did want to meet. Mm-hmm. And we were all a little bit unsure because of we were thinking we don't know what kind of development's going to come in. We don't know what kind of work that plant is going to need. And will we screw ourselves by taking in other sewer areas? Right. And I think there was also another thing that there was some insinuation that not only would they want to tie in the 30 or so businesses that were part of the Montrose Improvement District, but maybe some of the adjacent houses. So it started to get a little bit fuzzy and unclear. So to meet with them, see what it is they would like to do. And Sean says, I wouldn't want to do anything that would not be to the advantage of the village. It gets down to one thing, money. We could all hug and say what a great neighbor you are, but ultimately it's got to work financially. We have to be able to make a few bucks on this or maybe have them help us add that third tank or do the renovation. So it gets down to dollars and cents, not just being a good neighbor.
Absolutely.
As George said, sorry.
We could set our parameters. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
No, go ahead. You were talking.
We could set our own parameters. It's all about negotiating. It's all about working it out. We just have to find out exactly what we have to work out. I know you guys we had the discussions years ago. Maybe, I believe the town has a different direction of what they want to do. Any parameters, all this stuff can be worked out. The minutia can be worked out, whether they're limited to 150,000 gallons or, 20% of our capacity, whatever, There's a million things. Got to start with the details, but you just have to get the data in order to cull it, to get through the information. And all I'm asking is that maybe George or Marcus call Tom Wood to set up a meeting so we can find out those parameters. Hey, if it doesn't work, no harm, no foul. At least we have all the data. And Nikki had said before, we didn't have the information about what we needed the sewer plant. We know what we need now. George did an in-depth study. We have the capacity to increase ourselves by 30%, another 250,000 gallons, and save $1 million over the entire rehab of the plant. Now, if that doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Then we still can fall back on maybe what the county wants to do if we get all that information. I'm not asking to spend any village money. The county spent all the money for all their studies. I think it was $15,000 or $20,000. It was right under their bidding limits. So we didn't spend any money on that study. We made the decision not to go through with it. So, I'm just asking for a couple of phone calls, really,
Sure.
to get some more information before we try to spend $5 million,
Yep.
You guys didn't listen to me. A few years ago, I suggested that we form a standing army and take over Montrose, and we wouldn't have this problem.
Let's start with her plant, get smaller, and give us more power base. How's that? We'll go for 1,000 residents instead of 4,000.
All right.
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, there's been a lot of people that have contacted me over the last couple of years about how they would become part of Buchanan. And I said, well, unfortunately, the town will not let you secede from the union there, but you could always buy a home in the village and then you'd be part of us. All right. And I think another issue, George, if I'm not mistaken, we looked at the financials on it and it didn't appear that it was going to work for us.
Yeah, we started talking about numbers to charge the community, to charge Cortland. And they said, well, if you reach this amount, whatever it was, I forget what it was at the time, 10 cents a gallon, whatever it was. They said, well, that would probably stop the project. So that number is critical. What we charge them is critical to the whole process. And actually, they also said, so we have a line where they tie into, and we said, well, you got to study that line from there to the plant as well. And they said, well, we didn't put any money aside for that either. So we got to reallocate some money for that. So, there's some things that they need to account for as well. So
there's a lot of ducks to get in a row.
Yes.
Correct.
Absolutely. But I think they've reevaluated their position and they've come with different goals. So they might be a little more receptive to some of these concerns because their only other option is to try and take over somebody else's sewer plant or build their own. Those are the two options that they're faced with.
All right. So I'll call the supervisor tomorrow, but the bottom line is if it's not in the best interest of the village, I'm sorry, we just can't do it. So
absolutely. I agree 100%.
Good. Perfect. Okay. So, all right. We're going to look at grant writer. There is possibly another option. So for the rehab of the sewer treatment plant, but that'll be a discussion down the road. So, but I think it's best that we go for the grant writer right now. George, I'm glad you're on right now because I know we touched on this before, the pump station on Albany Post Road. Right now it's working. And I know you would like to raise it and do a few things there. And we're looking at $550,000. Is that something that could be put into the bond also?
Okay, so today we received a DEC grant. So as long as we're talking about grants, They have a resiliency grant where if you have a project that gets something out of a floodplain or it minimizes or reduces flooding, you can submit to them for that. So if we look at maybe doing that grant as well, as long as we have a grant writer, if we could pass that along to him and see if he could give us a price for that, that would be my suggestion right now.
And Teresa, answer your question, that also qualifies for the WQIP grant as well. So there might be multiple grants that 25% can be made up by another grant possibly, or we can combine everything into the biggest percentage that we can get. So we actually can, I'll tell them to look at that as well.
Please, yeah, because that's one of those things down the road. Okay, good. These other items you have under this year, Marcus. So the two gates.
George, on the other items that we got the two slough gates. Is that something we can wait as part of the grant, or do we incorporate, or do we have to do that right away? There was also the remediation of manholes. Just to let you know, George, the two pumps. And the removal or existing control panel at the Albany Post Road. So those are minor items, yes. But I'm wondering is how important are those to incorporate it either into the grant, even though they're small, or we need to get the answer done before the grant writer can apply. Because even when we apply for the grant, we won't know for a couple of months if that money will be available.
Right. So I would incorporate those into the larger projects. It's economy of size. So if someone's if you're rehabbing the plant, you're going to do that right along with it. So I wouldn't.
They don't have to get done this year. They can wait.
Yeah, it can wait. The answer is it can wait.
Okay.
Well, that's ultimately the question. What cannot wait? I mean, yes, even if it's more economically advantageous to incorporate it with the larger project, is there anything that is critical to do right now?
Correct. That was my concern.
Yeah, no. So.
Because that was the only thing you wrote down as very important on the list there, George. That was your only annotation. So it made it feel like there was a sense of immediacy.
Well, here's the issue with one of them, those geyser pumps that Nick called them.
No. I call them geyser pumps. The spelling is gassier.
So those pumps, so you have to order them. They probably have a 6 to 8 or 10-week lead time. So the only thing I would suggest there is to make sure we have them on the shelf, so that if something, so it basically what it comes down to is piping. The piping is the easy part. Having a spare on the shelf would be the only key here.
I was referring to the sluice gates, George. That's what you wrote down as very important.
Okay, the sluice gates.
The sluice gates help you maintain your water level in the tanks, right?
Well, the sluice gates that we're talking about are the ones that are for the return sludge. So what they do is they divert sludge from either into the tank or off to waste. So they're important, but if we had to, we could do a temporary repair to it to make it functional for another 2-3 years. So it's not like it's going to fail tomorrow or it's imminent, but yeah, we've had this, and the cost came up. So you think 2 little gates, where I think we were in the $50,000 range. So it was pretty expensive they were stainless steel and they're expensive. So
Not cheap at all.
no.
George, I was talking to Marcus today because I know with the DEC, they want us to take care of the INI. And we were talking about that American Relief money that we're going to be getting. And I'm being conservative. It's about $200,000. But Marcus said that we can use that. We could use that for that.
That's one of the items that you can use this money for, any kind of water or sewer infrastructure capital projects. Yes.
Water or sewer?
Correct.
And is there a time limit?
No. No. The only time limit is, according to them, I don't know how the money's going to be distributed, but I understand half is going to be distributed. A certain percentage, it could be half or 60%, and you won't get the rest of it to next year. Our amount is so small, they might give us the full amount. I don't know what the actual number is going to be, but you can use it anytime after you receive it.
So we receive the full 250, or we receive a portion of 250?
Don't know. We get 50 or 60% off the full amount, and then the rest of it will be done next year. And there's a lot of unknowns yet in regard to how that money is going to be distributed yet.
Oh.
So
It's about $250,000 we either get in half or the full amount. But I'm saying one of the things in there, George, was the manholes, which is DEC requirement.
Yes.
That's $25,000 a year for 4 years. So a total $100,000. So the board, we could use some of that money to do more than 2 or 3 a year. We could try to bang that all out at one shot. I don't know how the DEC will stand or react if we were able to do more than what we budgeted for. So that's something.
They don't mind if you do more. They care if you do less.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, the sluice gates can be used no matter what we do with the sewer plant, correct? If you go with the new aeration, if you go to any, no matter what, you need these sluice gates.
Well,
right?
that's an interesting point too, because if we change out the tanks, right? If we get, which is our option too, and we change out the tanks and we put these gates in and we change the dimension of that opening, then we don't need we might need a wider gate or something narrower, or it might be a different configuration or elevation. So, yeah, buying them now would be nice, but do we run into that risk as well?
So why don't we do this? Let's, with this money that's supposed to be coming, why don't we take buy the two pumps, install those two pumps, do one sluice gate, and that should take us to $75,000, well underneath the $60,000, and do one manhole. And that takes you to $100,000. It takes you to around 40% of what you're expecting. And we could do that right now. We could say we can do that right now.
Yeah, money from the federal government. We have not received that yet, but we should be getting it, Sean. So that's a good idea. We could expend the money now and then reimburse ourselves when it comes in, or wait for the money to come in if that's what the board's direction is going to be.
What's the possibility of us not getting it?
Oh no, we're gonna get it. It's just how much we're gonna get.
We know what we need. We know the cost. Why wait for everybody to be rushing to spend this money? If we can get the cost at the parks right now, we have the plan. You know, who knows when everybody's trying to buy these off the shelf, when they get millions of dollars, these costs might go up 10-15%. So why don't we do it right now?
Sean, that's a great point, because we're still waiting for the pump for the pool to come in, because everything's back ordered. So that's a great point.
Yeah, I'm okay with the pumps if we want to order those right away.
Perfect.
I'm all right with that.
So we'll go with the pumps, and we're going to replace one sluice gate and do a manhole this year. Is that correct?
I don't know, George. Are you comfortable with those gates? Because you just said there might be a different configuration. I hate to spend any money on those gates and then we don't use them in the end.
Okay.
It just might be a different configuration. That's my only, George brought that up. That's my only concern. And then I think I read something the other day. I think within a month we should have a better picture of what's going on with that money too.
It's a small amount, the $14,800 for the panel. Is that something, George, that we need to do now, or that we be done if we replace the pump station totally?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
There was a Albany Post Road pump station removal of the existing control panel.
Okay, so so when we put in our new control panel, we put it in a location that's not ideal. And there's an old panel there that's from when the pump station was put in. So that's to move it from one location to the other. But again, our new panel is fine. The old panel is sitting there and idle or not going to be used at all. So I don't think you need to do that right now. I think when you go to do the larger project, that's when you would do that. If you got a grant or whatnot, that would pay for that.
Okay, good. So I just want to get down to the bottom. So the pumps and do 1 year of the manholes. Is that something everybody seems to be agreeable with?
Why don't we do two manholes, since we're not going to do the sluice gates, and we're going to hold off on the sluice gates until next year?
I like that.
So we'll go with, we still have $100,000. We're still below 50%.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
To do that.
That's a question.
That's great.
No, it's not down for this year. The Albany Post Road pump station, is that the structure at the north end of Wqip?
Correct.
Or is that, it's not that yellow shack over there, but what's that yellow shack by Blakely Avenue?
No, that's the telephone.
No, that's Verizon, I think, right?
Yeah, it's Verizon.
That's Verizon.
Why is it puke yellow? Can we
It was all, Nick, it was all like graffiti and everything. We contacted them. We told them
they just painted it that way.
Paint it, and I think they need to paint it again because the color is fading and it does look terrible.
I can contact Verizon about that. Nick, what color would you like, Nick?
I would like either a soft gray or a sea foam would be nice.
I can call them up. That's fine. That's the easy one.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Something in a sea foam would be my preference.
Because we're going to be putting our new entrance signs in that area, and it's going to just stick out with that.
Yeah.
All right, good. So we're going to get the grant writer. We're going to do the grants on the sewer, the plant and the pump stations, and then the gates, and then we'll see what that comes back with. Everybody's on the same page with that?
Yep.
We're not doing the gates.
All right.
We're not. No, the gates we'll put as part of the grant as well.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Because once again, George doesn't know how we're going to end up with
That's good.
the configuration. So.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you, guys.
So, George, do you have any other things you want to discuss with us with the capital?
I think you covered everything. It was pretty comprehensive this year.
Yeah, stick around, George. You probably have nothing better to do, right?
No, I got nothing better to do.
Can just for everybody's well, George, that's great. That's great. George, just for everybody's information and for mine too, the pavilion. I know we're still waiting for the grant to come in. That work is it really is how necessary in case that money does not come in. Is that something the board has to consider spending the money on, and when?
Well, that's an excellent question. We've been kind of, I won't say limping along, but we've known about it. The condition hasn't gotten worse because we painted it. It's just there, and it's something that needs to be addressed. I mean, we can evaluate it again next year before you have to make a financial decision, and let you know then if that works.
Well, we're still hoping that grant money, it's still available. It's just hasn't hit us yet. So,
okay, I just want to make sure. I know he worked on that project for years, so I want to make sure we did.
No, it has. Point. It's been a process. If we had gotten the money, we would have had it done already.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. So
let's do it before they
George.
require storm drains too.
That's right.
There's a drain in there already, Nick.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along to the highway department. What we had for this year on this list was for $212,000 to replace a 1986 Mack with a Freightliner plow truck.
That and Teresa, just I think we discussed the concrete of the work of the garage, the foundation.
Okay.
I know Rob is on too. I want to bring up to the board if that's an important aspect that Bob wants. I know Bob is there; he's muted. I know he was concerned about that as well.
I don't think it was the foundation. I believe it was the support column.
Support column. Sorry.
Damage where it touched the ground.
Yes, correct. Bob, can you hear? Bob, can you hear us? There we go.
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So, Bob, you might want to just to update the public about the truck and the concrete work that you need.
Well, as I said last week about it, the truck we're trying to replace is a 1986, 35 years old. It's seen better days. And the new truck is based on all our neighboring communities that do have the truck I'm looking at. They love it. The mechanics love it. The drivers love it. I think it's going to last a long time. We get plenty of years out of our vehicles. So we had the luxury of having all our vehicles be parked inside year round, which is a big plus compared to some of these other communities that have to have their trucks outside all year. And as far as the structural work here in the garage, Sean's correct. It is some of our support columns is really getting eroded. That needs to be addressed. I do need to get a hold of the contractor to come take a closer look and see, get a closer number on what that's really going to cost. Like I said, having trouble getting some vendors in here recently to get some prices. So, but I have the feelers out, trying to get some people to come take a look at it.
So, Bob, that's at the base?
Yes, it's at the base.
That's at the base.
It's years and years of, we wash our trucks and everything inside, the salt and the concrete, we wash out best we can, but the salt does do damage over years. The building, I don't even know what year this building was built, but it's old.
Well, the original offices used to be there. The police department was there. The clerk's office was there. So, yeah, that goes back a ways. And originally, I think it was the village offices were out at the circle somewhere. So, yeah. So that building's, that's pretty old.
I mean, we're doing good here. We redid the roofs here on the garage and the office area a few years ago at a substantial amount, but we did get it done. So we're moving in the right direction. It's just a matter of trying to keep this building up and keeping up to snuff.
Okay.
And before we leave this, hey, Bob, if you get a contractor, just if you can take a look at the fire escape at Village Hall as well. We have some issues with there. We need to get a price for that. The staircase has pulled away from the building somewhat and actually moved to concrete space. So if board members take a look at it, the base of the steps, the concrete slab has been cracked. So the stairs are moving. So I'm just concerned to make sure they're still stable and how to get that staircase repaired.
Okay.
Make sure it's secure.
I'll look into that.
Thank you.
I think that also needs to be I think it needs to be repainted this year too. it looks like it needs to, have a coat and scrubbed down and scraped from the rust and redone.
Yep. I just want to make sure it's safe before anybody gets on it.
Absolutely. That's important.
Well, we need specifications for this repair because it's over our bid criteria. So you're gonna have to have somebody do an evaluation. If George could go do an evaluation, try and pull out the prints to see if this concrete is just a face concrete where it's covering up a couple of I-beams, or if it's all full of rebar. Because if at 40,000, we would have to go out to bid. So we have to develop a bid.
Correct.
Yep. Go out and say we need somebody to do this. So, Wheels, do you think you can get to maybe 20,000 so we can go underneath the bid?
Well, the price I'm throwing out on the table right now is the price that the previous foreman gave me, or he mentioned in the past. So I'd like to I can get some people in here. I'm working on getting some people in here to look at it and see what kind of number they'd really give me. So I'm not sure if that was an accurate number, to be quite frank with you.
Does anybody know what's inside of there?
No.
I don't know if you're even going to be able to find plans, Sean. You know what I mean? Like, we've looked for plans on different things before. Maybe we'll be lucky and there'll be plans there, but.
No, you see, the problem is when you're going to go out and do a bid, if you don't know what the original construction is, then you're going to have to treat it as a main support column. And if it's a main support column, that's going to double or triple your price. If there's an I-beam inside of there that was just covered up with concrete for aesthetics or safety value, whatever, that's a totally different thing. So it's important that we know what we're going to ask. So that's going to determine the price, and that's going to determine the bid package. So I need a little more investigation. So you want to say something, Ann?
That might be a lot more than 40,000 in the end too.
Absolutely, but we need the evaluation before we can determine what.
All right.
I can meet up with, if George has time. We can.
George is there.
Look at it too.
George, is you there? Is that something you or somebody from your staff can come take a look at that, and also the staircase?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
You might just be able to run a 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch concrete drill bit through there, see if it goes all the way through. But if it only goes halfway, that means you might have an I-beam right in the middle. Because there are steel I-beams and a roof in there, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Right. Well, the support beams I'm looking at here are actually, they were an exterior wall at one point in time before they added on the steel building where we park our garbage trucks now.
Yeah.
So there used to be a garage door there. So right there where there's an opening in our garage. So that's basically all I know about it.
Okay.
So it was an exterior wall at one point in time.
Get some engineers in there to check it out.
Yeah, the sooner the better, but that way we get a good number. If that number does explode, then we got to talk about how we're going to pay for it.
But I still think we should go with the truck, though.
Yeah. No,
we expended $35,000 on that 10 or 15 years ago to get another 10 years out of it. Actually, not 10 years, 2012. Yeah, almost 10 years. Yeah. So I think we've extended the life as far as we can. And, I think we should expend the $220,000 and, authorize that or whatever, however you want to go about it. But I think that should be approved.
I think the one good thing, we really get our money's worth out of all of our equipment, whatever we have here in the village. I mean, Wheels, what did you say, over 35 years? So that's probably almost unheard of in the industry.
Right.
So it's time. It's been a workhorse for us. It's really served its purpose, and you know what? And we need that. You guys use that truck. You also, especially in the winter time, use that truck. That's a important vehicle in the winter months.
Bob, I know fire trucks take almost a year to build. What's the timeline if we order this one? Is it a state contract? Or is it a couple months or a year from now to be built? What will be the timeline on that, if you know?
It's hard to say right now with the waiting period for buying a lot of things right now. But usually something like this is going to take 8 to 10 months.
Yep, exactly.
Depending on how they get all their iron and metal, where they need to build these trucks and put them together, because we're dealing with two different manufacturers. We're dealing with the Freightliner for the truck, and we're dealing with Henderson for the body. And they have to work together and get everything together. So that would be, a tough thing to guess. I would love to see if I got it before the winter. Yeah, that would be moving ASAP.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
What's the rest of the board feel?
Yeah, I think we should go forward with the truck. Definitely.
Yeah, I think so also. Hey, Marcus, the idea is to put together
a list,
all the essential things and try to put them all into one funding package. I think we should probably estimate even, whether it's 40 or 50, estimate something for the concrete, and while we work out what the actual numbers are and the bids and so forth, figure that in the total package that's going to have to get done.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you.
As well as the fire escape.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. If nobody has any other questions about the highway equipment, moving on to the police department.
Sorry, Teresa. Can you move to the fire? Can you move to the fire department? Because I know Shane couldn't be here tonight. He's in court tonight. But okay. We can go through the police department later. But we got the fire department here. So
okay, sure. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
So with us this evening, we have the chief, Andy Roush. Do we have anyone else? You got Bob Ahaus, the new elected assistant chief. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Bob.
Thank you.
Oh, there he is. Okay. All right. So we have already discussed the truck that's it's in the works. When's the estimated delivery date of the new pumper?
As of right now, it's the first week in June.
Okay. All right. So it's still moving along. All right. So that's basically, with how we're going to pay for it. The money that we had set aside is going into that, plus the $50,000 that we usually put aside for the replacement. We'll be able to pay for that. We'll be able to pay out of that the bond on that. So what we really need to discuss this evening is, I know you guys are asking for a replacement of a 2009 Dodge Durango assistant chief car.
Correct.
And just to let everybody know, we have $50,000 in there originally. Andy was able to get an updated price by the chief. The new number is $62,000. That's my understanding is all fitted out and the equipment in it, right, chief?
Correct.
So it's the $62,000 number now for the fully equipped fire chief vehicle. Just to let everybody know that.
Okay.
So, chief, would that go to the assistant chief, or would that be your car, chief? How would that work?
It's still up in the air. Normally, it would go to the chief. We're looking at now giving it to the second assistant, and he would keep that car up through the 6 years. It's just logistical as far as the radio identifier, because the new radios are identified to that vehicle.
So if the board would like to consider this, like I said, as Nick expressed, I would like to add everything to my list, and now talk to my financial advisors, and now come back with a spreadsheet to the board at a future meeting, what we will recommend either as a ban or a bond, depending on the useful life of each piece of equipment. So just to keep that in your mind.
Well, I was actually met with the fire department last night. I took a look at that Durango. It's pretty loaded up with rust around the bottom edges, and I think it's seen better days. I think it's definitely a vehicle that should be replaced. So,
and that's an 11-year-old vehicle, correct?
12
years old.
Yeah, it's 2021. How'd that happen?
I don't know.
Any mechanical issues with the vehicle, chiefs, from your point of view?
It's when it went in for service the last time, they found out it's burning oil. We don't see where it's coming out, so it's internal someplace that it's burning it.
I just want to make sure the public and the board. Yeah, I was wondering if the public and the board knew that as well. Any feelings from the other board members?
Well, we still don't know how we're financing the fire truck. We haven't come up with a plan with that, a percentage of that, or how much we're using from the vehicle replacement fund. Do you have a number? Did anybody put together those numbers on how much we're going to take from the vehicle replacement fund and how much we're going to take out a loan or a bond for?
Yes, Sean, I can get you those numbers. I want them in front of me. The village board approved the transfer. I forgot. I don't want to say the numbers. There was a board motion a couple of months ago before the election in regards to how much is going to come out of there, and I think it was like
roughly 150.
Yeah, it's 300,000. It was like a little bit over $300,000 going to be a ban or a bond It's probably a bond. It's a useful life for 20 years on that. We could do 15 years and then $100 and something thousand out of the vehicle replacement fund. What I can do, Sean, is tomorrow I can actually give you the analysis of that and give it to the whole board so that you have it in front of you.
Because we won't have to spend the whole 62,000. We could take some money out of the vehicle replacement fund, or we could move this over to the next year when we have more money, so we can only have to borrow half. You know, I'm really not too sure where all this money's going to come from right now. You know.
Well, for the truck, what we decided, the payback on the truck, not the Durango, not the replacement of the Durango, but on the fire truck itself, the pumper, we put into our budget every year $50,000. So if that's bonded, we can take that $40,000 each year to pay for it. So it's not coming out; it's actually coming out of that $50,000 to pay that back.
Well, no, I understand that was the original assumption, but it kind of has moved to rolling everything into one large bond and then using only a portion of the $50,000 allocated to pay off the entire bond of everything that's put together. So I had no problem originally, you know, buying the whole fire truck and then taking $40,000 and paying off the fire truck. But now the plan has morphed into using the money for everything. So that dilutes the amount of money that goes directly to the purchase of the truck. You understand what I mean? Because when the truck is $500,000, right? You're going to have $300,000 you're going to put into a bond. But if we put another $500,000 of items in there, that's at $800,000. Right. And we're still going to use only $40,000 to pay off the entire large bond. So your capital that is going to be put into just the fire truck is less. You understand what I mean? Because we're no longer keeping things separate. The goal here now is to roll it all together.
Yeah. So let me address that, Teresa. What I'm going to do is, as we pick and choose what projects we want to do, and for the fire truck, for example, the portion of the bond, principal and interest for the fire truck, this amortization table, that money for the $50,000 we transferred to the fire department now will be used to pay off that debt service part of the fire truck.
For the pumper.
For the pumper.
That's what correct. I was thinking in my head. That was still staying
correct.
There,
so the only tax increase would be on all the other projects that you're listing, and that can include the fire chief's vehicle, depending. And Sean, you're absolutely correct. I can give you a balance what's remaining. We could use some of that money to offset the $60,000 if the board wants to do that. You can deplete whatever's remaining and pay that off as much as you can. Or your idea, put it off to next year if the chiefs believe the truck can survive another year, and then you have more money next year to pay off the entire truck. So you're right. You have you have that flexibility. And when I get the list of all the other projects tonight, I'll be able to break up an amortization table and also break up where the principal and interest and give you a total amount, what the estimated tax rate increase would be next year to cover all the debt on all the projects. And that will also give you the board to say, okay, that's too much. Take this off or add this back in. So I want to be able to get a spreadsheet you can play around with. So
I just have a problem putting a small, this is a relatively small purchase vehicle into a bond that you're going to pay off over 20 years.
That was my question too, because we have the police vehicle, Sean, and we have this vehicle. And what is the pay down on that? Because I'm not looking to, if we're talking 15 years, especially on a police vehicle, that
you won't be able to do 15 years. And the way it'll work, and as part of the amortization table, what the state allows you to borrow, you can't borrow more than the useful life of the asset.
Okay.
So what would happen is there'll be the average cost of everything. So the fire trucks, I got to get that from a financial advisor. The fire chief vehicle might have a useful life of 6 or 7 years. So a ban will carry 5 years, but a ban will let you carry the full useful life. So I'll be able to give you that number, Sean, for the next meeting, after I be able to get an amortization table for everybody and be able to tell you what the principal and interest would be.
I'm a little worried about having a ban for 3 or 4 years because I don't think the economy is going to be as stable in the next couple of years. You know, and your ban is going to be is going to have a lot of market fluctuation. You know? So the bond, we could throw a fixed bond in there within a couple of months of knowing that we're going to be in problems with the ban.
Yeah, I think that's what the board's trying to do, to get to the fixed rate, and that's why we're working on this so quickly.
Right.
But my concern, once again, going back to these vehicles that maybe have a 4-year lifespan, that was one of my questions,
Correct.
Marcus.
Well,
that
correct.
I didn't want to see it be a 15-year bond for something that's going
correct.
to.
What I'm going to give you guys, because again, I'm going to give you guys what could be banned for and what could be bonded for, including the bond will be the smaller assets. So you can back that out of the bond and put into a band, or put the band items into the bond. So you'll have options, decide what you want to do with. Okay. So you'll have a whole bunch of options, Sean, that you can pick and choose which way you want to go.
Doesn't the state still give a 2% emergency vehicle replacement fund? 2% loans?
I think it's 2.5 now, for the 20 or 30 years you want to take it out. But yeah, it's 2.5 now.
So could we tie
Marcus, what are the bonds? Sorry. What are the bonds looking like now, Marcus?
1.15.
But Marcus said we can't bond something longer than its useful life. But the
and that will be I'm sorry, but that will be included in the bond. So these vehicles might have useful life for 6 years. When they do the amortization table, it will be included in that number. So after 6 years, you'll see the bond principal drop off, but it will be included as one lump sum.
Okay. All right. I see. I understand what you mean.
I'm sorry if I was confusing. Sorry.
No, because I got you, because they're gonna take the capital and dump it into that one part of it, and then once that one part is paid off, that drops off. Is that what you're saying? Okay, cool.
That's correct.
Yeah, all right. So it doesn't make sense to go for the emergency vehicle replacement that the state has. It used to be 2%, but okay.
I want to point out that even if the state considers the useful life to be 6 years, that this vehicle has been used for 12 if it gets replaced this year, and the next vehicle, which is a 2010 Explorer that they're targeting to replace 2 years later, would be seeing 13 years of service. So we're not like upgrading unnecessarily. These are vehicles that are getting a lot of wear.
Absolutely. Right. So if the board is okay with this, I just want to make sure if the board is considering the 62,000, I can incorporate that in the overall analysis I want to give you guys. That's all.
Okay. I think it should be included.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here.
Included.
I agree.
Thank you. All right, good. So
some good questions there. Definitely.
Okay. Shane was able to. Shane is on. He was able to make it.
Okay, good. Hey, Shane.
Thanks, Chiefs.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Night.
Andy and Bob. Oh, there's Shane. Okay, Shane, we're going to talk about you again. All right, so for this year, we're looking at an SUV. So that's fully equipped. That's with all the lights, all the installation of lights, everything complete.
Yeah, just the radio. The radio wouldn't be part of that. And whatever we can transfer from the other car, we don't know. But
Shane, what car would you be replacing? What year and what make and model?
2014 Dodge Charger.
Okay.
And that's not the striping either. The graphics.
So will you be able to get me a price for everything, Shane? So that way,
I mean, they're all separate companies. The graphics last time was about 2,500. I mean, we got estimated radio at 1,000.
Yeah, just an estimate. If you can give me an estimate at everything, at least I can. I don't want to miss anything. If we decided what avenue the board would like to go. And I want to just let the board know there are grants that might be coming out for possibly for the records management system and for the body cameras. Those are big right now, especially the body cameras. So we'll be since we talked about approving the grant writer, I'm going to have him look at that as well as a possibility.
Good idea.
And the records management system. So I think, Shane, if you can do a little bit more research on the records management system, see if that 50,000 is enough. if the board does decide to borrow, I don't borrow 50 and then we have to get money out of someplace else, just to get a better number of what that number might be.
Yeah, that was direct from Wayne.
Okay.
So he's pretty knowledgeable in that. That was his best recommendation. I'll follow up with him on that though.
Perfect.
Shane, could I ask you just to maybe explain what to a layperson what the records management system is all about in law enforcement?
Well, it's just keeping your records. It's just a matter of being able to simplify and collect all the data that we need. With a lot of reports now, you need all sorts of data. Age, race, maybe what type of stop you're doing or reason for stops, things like that. And to go through now, I have to go through every single call line by line and try to figure it out.
Well, right now it's manual. Is that it?
Yeah. With the system, you would be able to have it programmed in.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody who's listening, from the public understands that we're doing everything kind of the old way. And now we want to update so you have access and fast access to automation, which makes for a much more efficient organization. Thank you.
And that would help also. We go to the body cameras and the cameras that can be tied into the records management system, so we can tie in any written records as well as the video records. So it'll make it easier for the chief to do any research that he needs to get done.
Gotcha.
So are all these items for next year, are they all potential grant monies?
License readers.
The license reader, what else?
In-car camera system, yes. Okay. The only thing that's not included would be the update to the interview room and the car laptops. That might be a possibility, but I'm not sure about that.
How old are those laptops now, Shane?
They're about 3 years old.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So this records management system, does that require a yearly maintenance also?
I'm sure it's a monthly. I'm sure there's a
monthly.
Yeah.
All right. And that's going to be required for the body camera system?
No, because that would be separate. That's going to be run independently in the cloud through the company. So the records management systems for us to report all our reports that we need to the state, to the DA's office or whoever else needs it.
So the body camera system is not going to interface with the records management system?
Not necessarily, not the video itself, no, but maybe the reports associated with it or things like that would match up.
Yeah, what I've seen, you can tag it in a way as part of the record. The video was taken, so therefore, if he does pull out a manual record off the system, it'll be tagged with the date stamp of the video, and then he can easily research the video. So it's not directly tied in, Shane, but they're tagged together, so you get easier to find them both.
So the license plate reader and the in-car camera system also is independent of the records management system?
Yeah, it'd be the same principle, correct.
Yep.
Okay. So the records management system is just basically for reports?
Yeah, for any documentation we need. Yeah, right.
Does that include tickets?
Yeah, you could incorporate any information that you need. Yeah.
So Shane, that will be
depending
any
on
tickets.
How they program it, huh?
Yeah, I think that will incorporate any tickets, any stops, any reports, any calls for assistance. All that will be part of the record management system. So if somebody calls regarding a noise complaint in a certain neighborhood, Sean can actually be able to say noise complaint in a certain area, and then you can see if it's happening within the same time or the same person is complaining most of the time versus Sean have to go through all the manual records.
Okay.
And we did get away from a couple of years ago of the written ticket.
With tracks, with the state system, right, Sean? That's what the track system?
Tickets.
Yes, correct.
That's Shane, Marcus. I'm
Shane. Sorry.
We have different jobs. This has more longevity than mine.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're going to look into some grants for that. What do we have to decide on here today?
On the vehicle and the records management system, that's what we have for this year. If that's something the board would like to consider. So
this would be similar to the fire vehicle too.
Correct.
Is what we would do. Okay.
Correct.
And yeah, we're replacing a 2014, 7 years old. Time. Yeah, it's time.
Yeah, and Shane would be able to tell me again. I'm going to need that, like the Is it a Tahoe or a Chevy? What kind of vehicle are you thinking about doing? So I can provide that.
It is
Yeah.
called a Interceptor. It's a Ford.
It's a Ford. Okay,
The one, the
perfect.
same SUV we have currently.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. So is that those two items the board's willing to consider for the analysis?
Then I got it. Yep.
Yes.
I have no problem with that.
Absolutely.
And the other items that are listed for the next fiscal year can stay there? I mean, is that, or is there an intention to, is there anything there that you feel needs to be moved up?
I think.
I guess that's directed at you.
Shane. I think Shane was addressing some of the current concerns from the committee to try to get body cameras and the cameras to, helps
Right.
everybody through the process. So I'm going to try to see if there's any grants available for that. If not, we can revisit next year, and then we consider to how we're going to fund those items.
And the update on the interview room, what's that about?
But we need to have a room where we can bring in victims, suspects to interview. We cannot bring them now behind our where our computers are or anything. So we need to have that room updated, and computer access, things like that. So
That's the small room across from the chief's office?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it really needs to be done. It's a real necessity. I went through with Shane, and I went. Courtney was showing me around the thing, and it really is in bad shape. So it really needs an update. I would say that's a must. That money has to be spent for that.
Yeah, I would agree. I've seen it. It looks like let's go to Salvation Army and put together an office.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's about $8,000. Depending on how we wind up by the end of this fiscal year, we might have enough money to get it done this year.
That would be good. What about Shane? About the employee assistance program? I know it's not a big expense, but is it something they can only start up at the beginning of the year, or can we?
Yeah, it is. Rich, we had looked into that about a year or so ago when we were having an issue with one of our employees, not the police, but we had an issue, and we looked into it, and I spoke to somebody from the county, and you have to be signed up by the end of the year. I asked them at that point if we could still, get in, and it was, jumping through hoops.
Yeah, Teresa, to give you an update on that, based on what's going on, the county has allowed us. I was going to have that discussion in the next workshop.
Yeah, that is the next workshop discussion.
Yeah. So there is a price per employee. The entire village will have to go in, and the county will allow you to join in at any time if you like to. So we'll have that discussion at the next workshop on the 25th.
Okay.
Well, this EAP is different than a critical incident unit, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
So the critical incident unit is available to all first responders, correct?
Okay.
We don't even have to pay for it. I think that's something the county provides. So if you have a mass casualty and firemen or police need a little counseling afterwards, they'll supply that. We don't have to be signed up for it, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, this is for officers or anybody that's in the village, but they will do it just for the police department.
Yeah.
Anything, family, any issues you have that go on, whether personal, at home, on a job related, it allows us to get counseling or reach out on a private matter, and go through their resources for that. So that's the difference of that. And it includes families as well. So,
I know that EAP is a great program. It helps you refer to other healthcare professionals. I just want to make it clear that for critical incidents that affect first responders, there are different avenues outside of EAP that can be exercised. That is at no cost, and as long as everybody knows about them, you don't have to. The people who are affected by incidents, they do have a different avenue outside of EAP. But EAP is a great program, and I'd recommend it also. I just wanted to let everybody know it's not the only program available.
Okay, thank you. Good. All right, so I think you have the items there.
Perfect. Okay. Those two items, no problem. Thank you.
Shane, any other comments on these things?
Oh, one question, man. Were we going to try to move the $8,000 over now? Because I know Rich and Nick had said it was needed now. Were we going to roll that in there, or see if we can get it done now, or
Marcus,
wait until next year's budget?
Any flexibility? Well, next year's budget is what, a week away. So
I think we're looking at the end of this year's budget. I think we might have enough funds to get it done. I'm going to work with Cindy. We're getting close to the end of the fiscal year. I think financially we'll have a surplus. So we might be able to bang that out this year and we could do a PO before the end of the year and encumber this year's funds.
That would be good.
All right.
I meant next year's budget. It's plotted for 22-23.
Okay. All right.
I want to move it down into 21-22.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Yeah, Marcus thinks we can get it done within June 1st, 2021 budget.
But it could be kept out of this funding plan because you're saying it'll come out of current
Correct.
budget years of money.
Correct. So it'll be removed out of this. Exactly.
Okay. Good. Perfect.
Can I just say something, just a brief aside? I see that Chief Roush is still on the meeting. I met with the fire department last night, and they are interested in revisiting any possibility to enlarge the firehouse to accommodate other vehicles, normal length vehicles. They would like to have a third bay. It's complicated. It's come up many times over the years. We're not going to get into it now, but I spoke to the mayor earlier about this. We'd like to have a discussion with them to go over this at one of the upcoming workshops. I understand there's a lot on the agenda for the workshop next Tuesday.
I haven't tuned it up completely yet, Sean. Maybe Sean. My God, I'm sorry, Sean. Nick, I might let me rearrange the agenda and let's see if we can get this in,
Okay.
as we're discussing things.
Well, or we just do it as part of the June workshop.
Okay. Andy, would you be available next Tuesday to have that discussion?
Sure.
Okay. All right. All right.
It would be a discussion with the trustees as well, as that's their forte.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Regarding what we talked about last night, possibilities of doing any work there, why it's needed. Then we'd have to get input from Marcus and the board on potential costs and funding. There's a lot involved. It's a tricky one. That's why it's been talked about for years and hasn't been done. But if you want to revisit it with the board, we'll all be there.
Yeah, if you'd like to just tell us, the group, tell us what your thoughts are, and then we can have that discussion too. All right, so let me rearrange things so that you can come in next Tuesday at our regular workshop.
Okay.
Okay.
Andy, do me a favor, give me everybody's names and email addresses so I can send them the Zoom link, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the next capital projects, we're under recreation and the pavilion we already discussed. We're still on hold with the grant. Let's see. The main pool. Okay. Marcus, were you able to give Anthony and Sean the final report from the pool specialist that we contacted?
I thought I did, guys. Did you get that? If not,
I remember, but I watched all the meetings. So
okay. All right. So you know where we are with that. So we're looking at $170,000, and that doesn't even include the kiddie pool. This is just the main pool itself. And I know we had a quick discussion last week about the recreation money. So what's everybody's thoughts on that? Nick, I know you're not happy with that, but I hate like heck to bond $170,000 more if the village has money that's available in a recreation fund.
Well, Teresa, may I say just, I thought that the last week that and correct me, anybody if I'm wrong, I know I'm for spending it. I'm pretty sure Anthony, I said it was, and so did Sean. So I think it's a done deal.
Okay. All right. I just wanted.
Yeah, I didn't want to spend any money on the wading pool. I thought that was kind of a waste.
Yeah,
a lot
I agree.
of people never used it anyway. People, every once in a while, there's a mother had their infants in there, but they could just as well use the larger pool, you know. We have the large steps at the shallow end, and it can function the same way. So I didn't think that the expenditure of another $100,000 for something that really I don't think ever should have been installed to begin with.
Yeah,
I agree.
It was done in the mid 70s, I think, you know, and yeah.
So on a related topic, since I talked to the county, we're going back to CDBG just to confirm everything. According
to what?
The CDBG program with the county.
Can you say what that means?
Community block
development block grant.
Right, grant.
I hate abbreviations.
I know you do. We don't have any neighborhoods in the village that qualify for grants. But talking to the county, there was some discussion about trying to put a spray pool instead of if the board want to consider that. We could do a census. I have to send out a survey to people within the neighborhood. And if those people respond to the survey and they meet the qualifications of affordable housing, meet the medium income of the county, which could be a family of four, $100,000, a family of four, and then family of three is like 80,000 or something like that. We could qualify for a CDBG program within that neighborhood specifically for that project. So before I start sending out letters, knocking on people's doors and stuff like that, is that something the board would like to consider looking at a spray pool in this area and then try to get a CDBG program for that? Or do you want to focus on the deadline as everything else is next month to try to get this thing done?
Isn't there other things that are tied to those type of grants? Aren't there other requirements?
No, it's just income level.
Just income level for that.
Because I think I had thought that we had gotten ourselves into a little predicament once before.
Yeah, just the income level. So I have no problem reaching out to the people in the neighborhood, getting letters out to them. If they don't respond, knocking on people's doors and see if we can get qualified for that. But I got 3 weeks to get this thing done. If that's something you want to consider, the CDBG program is done for 3 years.
I just got the pool.
Okay.
I wouldn't be for that.
You know, Marcus, usually I want all the information before I make a decision, especially on something like this. But we entered into a situation that was very similar to this, where for 6 months to a year, we tried to get residents in that area to say that they would walk their kids to school. If we had even 5 residents say that they would do that, the state and county would have came in and put in sidewalks from the parking lot where it is now all the way to the entrance of BV. We tried and tried, and we couldn't get not 5, we couldn't get 1.
Oh my God!
So I think I'd hate to ask you to do Herculean efforts for something that I really
Marcus likes that.
Bear fruit.
All right, that sounds great. I just want to bring it up. I did have a discussion with the county today, knowing we had a meeting tonight, and there was some discussion about it. So I want to give you that opportunity.
So we have to determine our zones now, is what you're saying.
Correct.
In the past, the county determined our zones.
Yeah, they have districts, but if we can identify an area, a geographical area within that area that we want to do a project, we could qualify. And you have to sort of like Sean, you got to get over 50% of those people to respond in order to qualify as well. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you. I just want to.
Sorry, that's just my opinion.
I appreciate it.
No,
I felt the same way, but I like to, let the board know everything that's going on and what I'm going through to see what you guys want to do.
We appreciate that.
All right. Good. All right.
Okay, so I guess we're moving on to the building. And
before we move on, I understand I want this on the record, though. I understand I'm in the minority here on this using rec funds, but the recreation money is intended To me, it's not intended for, you could say it's an updated system that's required, but to me, this is still just years of a pool that's sort of degraded and is in bad condition. And the purpose of the recreation fund is to be used for additions and new items in our recreation program. It specifically excludes using it for maintenance. And I'm very much opposed to using it for that. I would, we had some talks recently, and I would hope that we would have hoped that we could have done some improvements to Lents Cove Park. The benches there really need to be replaced. We talked about, and I got prices, started getting prices and details for a paddle sport dock that could be installed in place of where the current boat dock is. None of these would use up that recreation money, but they would be, I think you could probably do benches and the kayak dock for something in the $30,000 range.
We have approximately $30,000.
And then we also talked about possibly doing a playground or a pavilion, a little gazebo or something. And I think that I would rather see this money get used to improve that park, and I'm very much opposed to this getting used for what I consider to be maintenance.
All right.
On the record, even though I see there are no attendees to tonight's meeting, it's on the record.
Okay,
Yes.
but Nick, there is still money that's still in that account. And let's remember, there's going to be some development, I'm understanding, across from the church, St. Christopher's. So there'll be more monies coming in from there once that development is done.
We don't have a bird in the hand yet.
No,
there is about 200,000.
You are correct, but we still have $30,000
and if you're looking at 100,
left.
this says 170,000 for the main pool. That's pretty much, prices, more likely to come in over than under. So it'll eat up the whole thing.
But then Nick, we also have an issue.
I would have liked to have seen at least a paddle sport dock and benches at Lents Cove come out of there.
Talk about that. Do you want to talk about that at the next workshop? If you have some numbers and some figures, we can put that on the agenda to talk about.
Well, I have some general numbers. What I don't have is the information. Bob, you're still here. Bob was going to look into possibly renting a vehicle to remove the concrete. Marcus, we had this discussion. You have to go to the Army Corps of Engineers to get an open.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's the DEC, Nick. We got to get permits from the DEC.
So it doesn't sound like it's a terribly a difficult process. I have a rough idea for the kayak dock and the installation of it. I don't have any idea for the removal of that concrete, but it sounds like if we get the paperwork done, that some of that could be done in-house. I'm not sure, but yes, we could discuss that furder.
Okay, then get us some better numbers there,
and we know what the benches cost because we did 3 in front of the village hall, and I think they came in at about I want to say somewhere around 2,000 each, not counting the work to put them in. So to me, I'm pretty sure that somewhere around 30,000 we can get new benches and a paddle sport dock that would have 2 launching spaces, one of which would be handicap accessible with support rails, or both might have the rails, but they would not interfere with it for anybody, but they would make it handicap accessible, something that doesn't exist in the area.
Can you get us some better numbers for next
Yes, I can.
Workshop, and that
Yes,
we can have that discussion. We'll put that on.
I'll forward what I have, and I'll try to get the next step. Yeah.
And just to everybody's information, I don't be the devil's advocate, but knowing what's going on with the economy and everything else, we can go out to bid on this, and that price of 170 could be 300,000. So we might be looking at some. Right. So if the board is willing to investigate, we can at least start the process to get some prices together and see if that 170 is a real number, and then the board can decide what they want to do.
Okay. Yeah, because we did hire that consultant with the pool also.
Yeah, we haven't gone to the next step, which they start getting design together to go out to bid.
Okay.
So do we need a resolution to authorize him to go out and do design, or is that still under the old budget line?
We had, that was one of the options at the last meeting. So if the board wants to consider that at the June meetings, we can have that discussion and then get a resolution to move to phase 2. And I can have him at the meeting. If he's available at the meeting, we can have that discussion at the workshop.
All right. So let's
put that on the agenda for the workshop.
Well, we can put it on the agenda for the meeting. If we're all in agreement that we want to go to phase 2, we can authorize the expenditure of the funds for him to develop the phase 2 project. Right? We don't have to wait on it. Everybody, I know Nick has a problem with, but we can put it on the agenda just to. How much does he want to allocate for phase 2?
Let me get you the pricing. I want to make sure I get it to you first.
So
I wasn't sure we're going to get this far tonight, but I can get you the contract for phase 2, and that way maybe he can be available at the workshop, which is next week. And if you guys still feel comfortable at that point, then we can move forward.
And we can put it on the agenda for June. Perfect. Okay.
I just have one question for Nick. Nick, if we're going to roll all this into one big bond, is your opposition to using the recreation fund strong enough where you wouldn't vote for the entire package?
Well, the entire package includes everything that we just went through.
That's correct.
And the question would be whether we add the the pool into that as opposed to taking it out of rec money. I don't think so. I would reserve my decision till I look at everything. But no, I don't think so.
I just want to make sure you weren't. I just want to make sure you weren't that you weren't so opposed to it that it was enough to sway you on.
No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna vote against it if there's 9 things that I'm in favor of and 1 that I'm opposed to. I will say that I would rather see it used for a paddle sport dock, new benches, and a sprinkler pool, so that there's a place for people to take small kids that currently can't really use the pool. I would rather see the rec fund money used for that new item than for the repairs of the main pool.
Okay.
All right. So moving on, building software application, $50,000. Marcus?
Yeah. It's I hate to say it, it's a mess. Paperwork is all over the place. There's nothing. The building department right now is beginning to try to scan everything, building permits, COs, but everything is in how can I express this? Just in the document folder. Planning, building, zoning, all the minutes and everything like that is all over the place. I would like to look at a software application. It's almost like the police records management system where you can look up a parcel and you can see everything relating to that parcel, every building permit, every CO, every violation, building code violation, any variances. Right now, you got to go to 5 or 6 different folders to try to find something on one piece of property. I hate this. It's a mess, and the building inspectors spend more time researching documents than doing the work they need to get done.
And this would be, because I noticed the same thing, software application for finance. It's not something that can be put together at a cheaper cost, is it?
No, the finance has to do with budgeting, payroll, accounts payable, taxes, and water. That's a separate topic. That's a 1985 package that has not been upgraded. The software company is not upgrading that package. You have to upgrade to the new system. They're not investing any money in that old package.
No, I'm guessing I not to cut you off, Marcus, but what I'm trying to ask you is, it's like, if you go in and you're buying 1 car, you'll get one price. If I'm going to buy 2 cars, I'll get a better price.
Yeah, it's 2 separate, two totally separate companies. Right. The financial people do not do building department and the building inspector stuff, and the building inspector people do not do financial packages.
Okay, I got you. 2
separate, totally different companies. Okay. The only thing we do tie in, which is another aspect, is that you can tie in with a link the financial package in regards to building permits. So right now, the building department, they get a building permit fee. They have to run a check downstairs, and then the ladies in the office update it. They'll be able, if somebody wants to apply for a building permit, my hope is that they can do it online, pay online, and then everything gets updated automatically online as well. Right now, everything's paper flying back and forth and files all over the place. For the assessment we were hoping to have an agenda too, the accessory units that we've been discussing for a couple meetings a while back. That's in a totally separate folder as well. So everything's mixed up all over the place. It's not a good environment.
Got you.
That's the way business was done for many years, and we need to get to the new millennium here.
Yes.
If I wasn't mistaken, Marcus, one of the computer programs that we had was part of a calendar system where these inspections were to be notified. The program that we purchased was able to pop up when accessory apartments were needed when backflow preventers inspections came up, when oil separator inspections came up, anything that was on a certain periodicity was to be programmed into the calendar system, into the existing software that we had. We purchased new software, not in 85, it was in 2012, 2013.
That's interesting. And that's Cindy's still on. I don't know about any that application. I don't know where it is. That
when we bought the computer up in the building inspector's office, he never even had computers. When we purchased the computers, we purchased that program specifically for those three reasons.
Yeah, I don't know that program at all.
Yeah,
they never use the program up there. It's all paperwork by hand.
Yeah.
Who was the building inspector then? I'm trying to remember.
Barbara. It's never been up. If it was up there, it was installed and never used and never upgraded, and we never had a maintenance bill from it. So I don't even know where it exists.
It was a basic calendar system that had notifications based on dates.
Okay, well,
so you knew when the accessory apartment was up, you knew when a backflow preventer inspection was up, you knew when a grease trap inspection was up, an oil separator inspection was up. All of those things that were part of site plans were to be entered into that program.
Yeah, what we use is the Microsoft Office, the calendar. That's what we've been using now. You're right, Shane. It's not a separate application. It's Microsoft Office and the calendar. So you can put reminders on there on a yearly basis. But that calendar is a Microsoft calendar.
Okay.
Only for, that we use now. So the building inspectors, like if somebody calls in, we share it. Cindy and Sharon, we go have access to the calendar of the building inspector. So if somebody will call in and say, I want to get an inspection, Sharon or Cindy can actually in Microsoft put in and block off a time for the building inspector to do the inspection. And then we see that.
Well, I understand that, but why can't they input the accessory apartment stuff and all the other things?
It's all the paperwork that goes along with it.
Once you get the piece of paper, then you put it into the program. So
now that's the thing. There's no program for that. So it's just a calendar application that I could put. I have a calendar to have a meeting with somebody, but the name, address, email address for that individual, and the accessory unit information, that's in a paper folder. Okay. So I'm looking for an application that I can put a sheet block and lock on an address, and I can see everything related to that application. And the building department package also is tied in to the Microsoft Exchange calendar. So it'll be one calendar everybody can share as well. And then also what I'm trying to do is allow the public to, my second step, hopefully, is to allow the public then to go in and apply for building permits online if they wish to. And it doesn't really do anything except notify the building inspector that you want to put an application in for a building permit. You can put your architect information, your contractor's information, and then we can start the process electronically at the same time. And then you can also then trace, if you trace your application, you have to go to the planning board, you'll get an email, you go to the planning board or zoning board. If you pass an inspection or for inspection, they'll be updated. And then you as a homeowner, you can see everything that's going on as well online at the same time.
So, okay. What's everybody think about those two software applications, the building and the finance department?
Sounds like they're necessary.
Yeah, I guess we got to go with the trend and stay with modern times.
And what's the maintenance fees on these?
We pay maintenance fees right now with at least with the financial package. So it'll probably be the same on that one. On the building department package, we're looking at 3 or 4 different packages. So I can get you I'll see which one Brian and Peter seem to like, and I'll get you the annual cost of that as well. It's not that much, to be honest with you.
All right. Are we all set with that so that we can move on to the village hall?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we have here heating units, boiler replacement, and I'd just like to say out of the gate here, before we put any money into the village hall lighting, let's recheck with the NYSERDA grants again. I know we had a quick discussion last week, but maybe the grant writer can see if that's what's available with that still.
Yep, no problem. So just to get everybody the boiler, so everybody knows it's the original boiler with the building. We've been having a lot of issues with it. Cindy can be a witness to this as well. This winter it kept on shutting down. We have to reset it every so often. It almost explodes every time it turns on. You should watch this thing turn on. A poof of oil thrown in your face, and it smells like oil in the building.
When was the last time that was? Has it been cleaned?
They keep. We're all calling these people constantly. It's just they can't find parts and replacement. It's in pretty bad shape.
This is not even a question. The technology is so different now, so much more efficient. We're just pissing fuel down the drain with that old thing.
Might save us some money there.
And what I was thinking, unless you guys have experience in this too, there right now is the oil burner. The possibility to do a combination of oil and gas and connect to the gas line that's in the street. If you want to consider that as well, and then we can switch whatever's cheaper, gas or oil, then we'll be able to switch back and forth. Anthony, I don't know, or Sean, if you have any feeling either way. Do you want to stay with the oil or do you want to look at gas?
I think you're better off with gas, but I don't see how you can switch from gas and oil. Is that what you're saying?
There's boilers that you can do both.
Really?
You just need different burners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anthony. You want to say something?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to switch, just to make sure Con Ed is going to give us some kind of, from the street in, what they're going to give us, allocate us. Usually they give us about 100 feet.
Yes.
To swap out burners. So, if they gave us a good deal and we want to pick up the rest, I believe it's more efficient as gas. I mean,
less maintenance too.
And less maintenance. Clean.
You have to clean it.
Yeah. When you're saying that the burner is backfiring like that and you can't find parts, you just replace the entire burner and the pump. As long as the coils aren't leaking, if the sections aren't leaking, if you're not having crossover, if you don't have a bad tube, you replace the entire burner. You don't replace the parts.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then it can spring that leak. I've had that done in several of my burners, and suddenly I have a flood in the basement, and it's done. It's over. The burner is shot. No more. Kaput. So I think with the age of that burner, I think that's probably our next possibility that'll happen with it.
Yeah, and if you guys, I've actually reached out. I got a couple contractors that gave me bids on it. So I'm just trying to reach out. If Anthony and Sean, if anybody have any other local contractors do this kind of work, please have them reach out to me. I would like to get a local contractor to do this work if they can do it, and I can make sure they do gas work, and I can contact Con Edison and try to get a couple more prices.
Well, did Con Ed lift the moratorium?
Oh yeah, the moratorium doesn't affect us. It's Southern Westchester and doesn't affect us at all up here.
47.
And does Con Ed give you a lead time for tie-ins?
I talked to them and I said, let me know when you want to do it, and then we can sit down with the contractor. We have to get a licensed contractor, and then we have to get an engineer. We also have to get an engineer to file with Con Edison. So I just want to see if the board want to go in this direction so I can get an engineer on. I got an engineer as well. I got 2 engineers that are willing to get the scope of work together and want to talk to a couple contractors.
Does the domestic hot water come from that also, or you have a separate system?
Yes. No, it's coming off that boiler.
All right. So I wouldn't recommend a dual fuel system. I think it's too complicated.
Gas.
If it's not properly maintained, you lose both systems. The control panels are very complicated also. And, I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I'm not big into dual fuel, so you have to pick what fuel you want.
Yeah, I'm very happy with gas.
Gas, okay.
It's like Anthony said, it's clean. It's lower maintenance than an oil burner.
Well, then if we're going to go with gas, we should think about only going with a gas heater and a separate zone or a separate hot water heater. So you don't have to fire up the entire system to get a cup of hot water.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Agreed. Absolutely.
No, you'd have to do that. Absolutely.
Yep.
And then if you're going to go gas, you have to look at the chimney, because the chimney is going to have to be lined. It's been oil for so many years, and gas burns drier, and then you're going to have issues. So the chimney would have to be lined.
Question: are we going to get into trouble with asbestos? Is this going to lead to some asbestos abatement?
The asbestos wouldn't be inside of the boiler itself. The asbestos.
No, I'm talking about the lines that we're connecting to. the lines we're connecting to, are they not coated? Are they coated in asbestos? It's a very old system.
It is.
And the pipes were probably coated initially in asbestos. And I seem to remember when we got that proposal from, what was the contractor that wanted to overhaul everything, that they were saying they would only go up to a certain number of feet from the boiler, and I seem to remember it coming up that we have some asbestos lined pipes down there.
Yeah, Bob is on. Bob, I don't know if you can still hear us. Do you know anything about the boiler and if there's any asbestos insulation down there?
I'm sure
I think there might be a few pipes that have asbestos insulation on it.
Yeah, you can have it removed, or there's another way they can be sealed. So I don't know with municipal buildings what the code is on that, but
that's why I'm gonna get. That's why
two ways you can go with that.
Yeah, that's why I got to get an engineer, a scope, and maybe talk to a contractor just to get everybody on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Either way, you're going to have to deal with the asbestos.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So is gas or oil more economical, or are they about the same?
I believe gas
market fluctuations.
Yeah, my impression is that maybe I'm wrong, but my impression is that gas fluctuates more than oil. Is that a misconception?
No, gas goes up in the winter and goes down in the summer, and oil does the exact opposite. So in the winter time, your gas is going to be more expensive because that's what the Northeast uses, and the majority of electrical generation in the Northeast is now gas. So if you look, the cubic foot of gas is very expensive in January, February, and March, where oil is more stable.
Right. Oil goes up in the summer because it's tied to fuel usage and cars and travel.
I usually fill my oil tanks up in the summer because it's cheaper in the summer.
Yeah, the gas and oil usually follow each other.
Yeah.
I always thought.
Yeah. Oil tank. How old is that oil tank?
Oh, I don't know. Bob is still there. Bob has been a lot longer.
It's been there a while. I wouldn't be surprised if it's been there from the beginning.
Ugh.
In ground, above ground.
What do we mean by the beginning?
In 70s, early 70s, the village bought the
when it became the village hall.
Pool. You're probably right, Bob. You're probably right.
The fact that we're using a boiler that's 50 years old is almost like laughable.
Yeah.
How the hell are we doing that?
Agreed.
Unbelievable, actually.
Yeah.
Does it have any historic
value?
value?
Like I said, we get our money's worth on everything.
Yeah, I see that.
No, you don't. You don't, because the inefficiency of the older systems.
Yeah, well, now,
probably,
sure.
Yep.
But it's time. It's time.
All right, cool.
Yeah, now you're losing.
Yeah.
So Anthony, I know you might know some contractors. Like I said, if you know anybody, please have them contact me. If you know anybody can do this kind of work.
Yeah, sure, definitely, I will.
Perfect. Thank you, Anthony.
Oh, Marcus, did you get the engineer first to get some specs going?
Yep, I got 2 engineers. I can get more detailed prices for them, and I'll bring them back to the board for your review and approval.
So you know how many BTUs and everything?
There was an analysis of that, so I'll give that all to the engineer as well, and I'll provide that to you guys as well.
And if you're going to go with gas, like I said, you're going to need a separate hot water heater, so you're going to have to know the gallonage of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a hot water. Yeah, I can. That's fine. The engineer will scope. I talked to a couple of engineers. They said they can scope all that out.
And you're going to have to know about whether you can have joint exhaust points, and whether you have to line the chimney or you can go through the wall and exhaust out of the wall, because
out of the building. Yeah.
Bacteria.
Yeah, hot water heater would be direct vent. That'd go right out the wall.
Yeah, it could be a direct vent, absolutely.
Perfect.
And that the chimney might be lined with cement pipe, so you might want to just leave all that alone.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
And
okay.
Nick, when you're talking about an amount of pipe that could be taken down, the operation and maintenance is allowed to do around 15 linear feet or 20 cubic feet without having a removal license. So if you have an asbestos O&M, as long as you have a supervisor, you can go back to the next joint, as long as it's not greater, and as long as your entire project does not meet the cubic foot threshold.
Hey, I got an idea. How about we all as a board approve spending the money for this and you guys could talk about pipes another time.
Hey, that's good.
Well,
All
that's
right,
all
I
has to
think
be-
everybody's on board to do this, to replace the boiler. What about the heating units? Do you want to wrap that into this whole heating system? What are your thoughts? Because we're going down to the last item after this.
Yeah. Those are the heating units when in each location throughout the building.
What are the current heated units? They're hot water circulating?
It's still going to be hot water.
Yeah, it's hot water through the boiler, through the hot water system. Yeah, but it
Yeah,
is still there. Yeah.
So why would we need new heating units? I mean,
They're beginning to fail, and they're past.
Well,
they're
then,
way
yes,
past
then,
useful life.
then include the whole thing, of course.
Yeah.
It's got to be a complete system. I mean,
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Let's
So
do it right.
that's right.
Yep. That's right. Okay.
Okay. So, Marcus, this is something that bugs me to no end.
Yeah, we got
tax cert.
we got the tax cert. We're gonna have that. We're gonna have the attorney and the assessor in the executive session in the next meeting. I asked them to come attend, so they can answer any of your questions. But we have a substantial payback on that one. So the question would be is another question, but could I include that we can either ban or bond this as well? It's a substantial amount of money. So I want to, you don't have to give me an answer now. We have time. I can include that as well, but we're going to have to pay this in a couple months.
Right, and this is so everybody knows, this is the sheetrock. They've changed the name again to Certainteed. There was a tax cert. We lost. And
Well, it was a potential settlement. So
Okay.
they wanted a lot more.
And now what are they going to pay? If that's a settlement, it's going to be about $100,000 for 44 acres.
That's correct.
So
In village tax.
So everyone's listening. Okay, going years down the road here, when I'm laying on a beach in Tahiti and retired, remember this: you don't want manufacturing because it's not good for your tax base. There's 44 acres, $100,000. That's not working for us. So I just wanted to share that with you.
So Marcus, you said you're going to have the person come to the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So there several years ago, actually more than several years ago, Georgia Pacific at the time wanted to enter into a pilot, and the village decided against it. However, the other taxing districts did enter into a pilot. So if you could just ask people who are working on this, what valuations were used in the other taxing districts? What kind of pilot did they enter into? And ask them what the terms and conditions, see if they can get a copy of it so that we have,
Sure.
so we can discuss, because we're not the only people that get, that are getting taxed on that. And I'll have to respectfully.
Absolutely.
I think if I remember correctly, when we were talking about a pilot a way back, it wasn't even. It was even less than this.
Yeah, I don't
just don't
remember what
have
it
the
was.
document.
I thought
It
it was
wasn't good.
actually before. I thought it was actually before we were in office. Was it after?
Oh, geez. Sean, I don't remember. I
Yeah,
really,
it was more along the lines of-
that's always been hanging over us, that pilot thing. And I just don't remember.
I thought
And Sean, that's good. I'll reach out and see if they can get a copy of the pilot and what the terms and conditions of that. I'll get that over to you guys before the meeting, and then what the current assessment is in the town and the school taxes as well.
They also wanted to try to do it in an industrial district. They wanted to change the way certain things were, but I'm sorry, I'm going to have to disagree with you, Mayor, on the industrial part. I think industrial and business carry a community, if it's done correctly. And I don't see how.
It supplies jobs, Sean.
Say again?
It supplies jobs, but if we're going to do 45 acres and we're only getting 100,000 out of those acres, like the nuclear was different. You got more tax base from a nuclear, but not all industrial. I think we had looked at those windmills, and it really the payback on that was for taxes was not good at all. So, but I'm just seeing 45 acres, only $100,000. yeah, I don't see, but it does help employment. Yes.
Yeah,
So they do employ people. I don't know how many people live in the village, if any, that work there.
We really don't.
Yeah, look, how many people worked at Indian Point?
We don't pick up.
Yeah, no, you're right.
We don't have kids in the school district. They don't use the recreation facility. So that $100,000, we don't have to do anything for it. They just give it to us. And when they did,
well, I'm not saying to do all residential either. So don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying all like that 240 acres in the end to do all residential. I'm not saying that at all. I mean, commercial, I understand is a different level. So yeah, I'm not. So let's get that straight. I'm not looking to do all residential because you're correct. Schools, services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Marcus, one other thing, if you could just ask him to give us some kind of valuation. I still have an issue with this because of all the improvements that have gone over in the last 10 years. I know we've discussed it, the $5 or $6 million that they put on the roof, and they only had to pay $2 million for. They put in 2 or 3 different docks in order to accept synthetic gypsum, and then going back to natural gypsum. They had to put in grinders. They put in new conveyor systems. They've done a lot of upgrades in there. They've done capital upgrades because of some issues that they've had at the plant in the last few years, and they've put on a 3rd shift. So all of these things should have gone into the valuation. I know you sent me an email as to why they don't add into that, but the increased manufacturing capacity that they are having right now should reflect in the value of their product, which in turn should reflect on an increase in taxes. When we allowed them to increase their production, we actually put a caveat in there. If the increased truck traffic damaged Blakely Avenue, they were going to have to pay to pave it. Unfortunately, a year or so after that, Con Edison dug it up to put in new feeders, and they paved it anyway. So we couldn't determine if there was degradation or not. So there are just a lot of questions that I have. But
I think that's good why we have the person who did the tax cert come in and explain the valuations and how he came to that amount. Maybe as we're discussing it with him, we might disagree with him, and we'll see where we can go from there.
Yeah, well, that's what Marcus had already discussed it with him, and he did send me some data as that was those improvements were classified as need to continue production and not to increase production, which that seems like semantics to me. You count the number of trucks. That's how you determine the amount of finished product that leaves the gate.
Sure. And then if there's a 3rd shift put on, there's more production. So yeah, correct.
One thing that could help is the calculations for the pilots and the other taxing districts evaluation of the value of the facility. Okay. So I'm sure there's trigger points in those pilot programs that would either increase or decrease based on market fluctuations. You can't expect the plant to be shut down for a year and play the same pilot. So there has to be something in there.
Yep, I'll try to get you all that information before the meeting. No problem.
Okay, good. And then we can make a decision on what we need to do, which way we're going with that.
I don't think we should go to court on it because we're probably going to lose.
Yeah. Yep. You're right.
I don't think there's been a community in Westchester County that has won a tax surgery. If you can find one, Marcus, let me know.
You're absolutely correct.
They just feel that municipalities just have unending amounts of money. So that's why they always lose, unfortunately. But, okay. Any other questions on any of the items on the capital projects list? Any other comments?
Covered it.
Okay, so I'm going to work on a spreadsheet to give you guys some options to look at and what the actual cost and average tax rate would be increased and stuff like that. So you can take a look at it, and also the flexibility of moving things around or eliminating things. So I'll get that to you as soon as I can.
Okay. Sounds good.
We're looking to expend these funds next year.
Well, we mean next year will be after June.
That's what I mean. The next fiscal year.
Next fiscal year, exactly, and then that way, actually, the first bond payment will be, and then next few fiscal years, so we can actually budget for it.
So then, I would imagine this bond is going to be postulated as a permissive referendum instead of a bond measure.
All bond issues are permissive referendum.
Or not.
Not all of them.
We've only, in the Village of Buchanan has had a couple of bonds and only one has been by permissive referendum.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll get you the resolution from the bond council.
Okay,
Well,
and then we'll have our council on the next workshop too.
In 2010, we decided against a permissive referendum and we passed 2 bonds by ballot measure.
So you do a ballot. Okay.
Those were the first bonds that the Village of Buchanan had in, I don't know how many decades.
How many years? Yeah.
So it's not a requirement that bonds go to permissive referendum. It's the decision of the board whether they go to permissive referendum.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, we can get the legal interpretation from Stephanie, but I don't think that's
She's a pro at that.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, are we good? Any other questions, comments, concerns? No? Okay. On a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
I'll move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, thanks, guys. Another
Okay.
good meeting.
Good night, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night.